Branding for startups. How do we build a unique brand identity in a crowded market? That's what the next keynote session is going to be about. For startups, establishing that brand identity, a strong one at the outset itself, is essential to stand out, to attract customers, to attract talent, and of course, to create long-lasting loyalty. One of the key questions that was raised in the last session, right? How do people trust us, especially when you're making your first hires and all of that? How do you attract the right people? A brand identity is key to that, and I'm sure all of these concepts and a lot more will be covered in our next keynote session. And this is going to be presented by a senior vice president at Physics Wallah, which is one of foremost India's edtech platforms. And what this means is, in this capacity, he has expertise in the education and technology sectors, which enables him to give us valuable lessons about branding and marketing and also operational strategies. So very proud to present to you Shri Ashish Sharma. Hearty welcome on stage, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jain University. And always nice to be in God's own country. I wanted to start with God's own country because that was the first big branding campaign any government has done. I think this was started in 1989-90. And today, whenever, not only in India, but anywhere in the globe, people say God's own country, the brand identity has been established that we are all going to Kerala. So thank you for having me here. Great job in getting this organized. Great job in getting this organized. All the organizers, and especially the student volunteers, hats off, guys. Great job. So I'll start off by narrating a story, and in that story, I'll give anecdotes. And last 5-10 minutes, we will leave time for any questions that you may ask. So this story is largely on Physics Wallah. Physics Wallah started its journey with Alak Pandey, who's our founder. And he started with a simple idea and to teach kids who were struggling in physics. And that's why Physics Wallah. He started a channel on YouTube. 2016 he started. He himself dropped out of college. He went on YouTube and normal whiteboard and marker and started to write and teach. And he used to teach for free. There was no remuneration, there was no expectation, there was no idea that he would make an edtech startup. He just wanted to empower people and actually teach kids. That's how the entire journey of Physics Wallah started. Some of you may know that Physics Wallah is valued, last valuation rounds, I don't want to talk about valuation in this large crowd, but last valuation rounds were good, and we are on path to maybe going to market. So we have today, I want to say, about 10 million students on our platform. When we say 10 million students on our platform, Physics Wallah has touched 10 million lives of students in one way or another. What is the core acquisition strategy? Why do people trust Physics Wallah? What Physics Wallah started off doing was to teach these courses, largely test prep courses, IIT, JEE, NEET. They went online and started teaching for free. When they started teaching for free, a lot of engagement happened. A lot of people started to come and trust that brand. And this is where the trust of the brand was built. Alak didn't hesitate and stop and say, hey, where am I going to monetize this? He didn't solve the monetization problem. I think what Alak solved was the real core of the problem from an education perspective, that kids needed this education, needed help. So that's how he cracked that trust in that brand. What is the brand? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, we should have a brand. Brand is a logo, a set of colors. Is it a certain wording? No, none of that. Brand is what people talk about you when you're not in the room, right? When you are in the room, I'm sure the people talk very well. People obviously want to be in your good books. But when you're not in the room, that's when people talk about you. That's what a brand, and that's how a brand is built. A brand is not built on, endorsements. A brand is built by the core value, the authenticity of the brand that comes out when you're teaching, and solving a student's problem. Our brand is largely community driven. Our brand is not driven by um, high ad spends. Our brand is not driven by high endorsements. Our brand is driven by community. We have um, about 70% of our students are repeat purchases because they find value, they find depth in what we teach, and they come back to learn more. More often than not, a lot of premium courses are taught free at Physics Wala, and the charges are only for anything that is a value add thereof, right? And that's why we continue to be one of the most affordable platforms. Physics Wala, tier 1 metro towns, tier 1 towns in India have access to good education, very good education, I'd say. Like for example, in Cochin, we are sitting, you guys have access to very, very good education here. Tier 2, Tier 3 and beyond is where people struggle. And that's the problem I think we solved at Physics Wala. We increased our distribution to Tier 2, Tier 3. First it was online. Now we are already in hybrid mode where with our Pathshalas and with our Vidyapeeth, we are able to touch and feel the students as well. The idea, the mission is simple, to democratize education. The mission is not to be, was never to be a unicorn, was never to be the most valued edtech player, no. The mission was to actually democratize education, solve the education needs of that student who's in that 8th, 9th, 10th in a rural environment who aspired to crack an IIT, JEE, NEET or any other competitive exams. That was the problem that we wanted to solve for. We didn't look at monetization as a step in any way or form. So this, I think, forms a lesson for most startups. In this audience, I'm sure in the next maybe 3 to 4 years, we may find 7, 8, 9 or maybe more entrepreneurs. So the way I would advise you to look at a brand is find that niche and be obsessed about that niche. Don't look at monetization options, don't look at valuation, don't look at all those cap table terms. There are a lot of terms that are floating around in the market. Those things will start making sense to you as you keep growing the brand, as you keep growing the business. Find the product market fit, and then the brand will evolve on its own. What is the brand strategy? A brand is never paid for. A brand is always earned, right? Most aggressive way of marketing these days is performance marketing, which is go on to Google or Facebook, acquire customers, show your ads to them, acquire customers, and bring those customers onto your platform. But in doing that, you're going to burn money. My 2 cents in this, I always say, and please don't quote me outside of this room, in building a brand with performance marketing, there are 2 companies who will really make money, which is Google and Meta. I don't think the people who are actually building that brand are going to make money, because at the end of the day, it has to be organic. There has to be a lot of organic plays, right? Today, the edtech market is valued at 10 billion, right? And and this is just an estimate. In my opinion, I don't think one can even value the edtech market, because right from early school education, right up to your need for higher education and upskilling, the TAM or total addressable market is, in my opinion, right now infinite. It's a debatable topic, but in my opinion, it's absolutely infinite. So when you have an infinite TAM, the only way you will be able to build a sustainable business, a sustainable brand, is by ensuring that your product stands for the core of what you're delivering, and you look at it and solve the last mile problem and do the boring. At Physics Wala, we don't have any endorsements. We don't have cricketers or Hollywood stars or Bollywood stars or Collywood stars or football players coming and endorsing us. We don't have any of that. We don't have so-called celebrities coming and talking about us. We have our students talk about us because they are the one who are actually receiving the service, and they are the one who are propagating our name. We have also tried to be true to our customers. While many edtech or education partners charge a premium for certain courses, between them and us there is a gaping, a gaping hole. An average price for a IIT JEE NEET kind of a coaching in another private institute would be about $1.5 lakh, whereas we are able to deliver the same much cheaper. I won't want to quote the prices here, but we do it much cheaper, less than half of what they ask for. We are also trying to get regional. What we also realized very early on, that every region has its specific play. Students from a specific region understand a specific language and are able to communicate better in that language. So if you are, say, from Kerala, Malayalam obviously becomes a key mode of communication, and when taught in Malayalam, your grasp is much better. My belief is that if taught in the language of the home state, the absorption is better, the completions are better, the outputs are much better, and then English as a language can always be retrofitted and retaught. So we have outreaches of about 9+ languages that we are doing right now. We are in the process of using technology to ensure that language becomes a commodity, and people from anywhere can come and address and learn from the platform. When you say you own a brand, or what is the positioning of a brand? How do you position a brand, right? A brand is not something that you sell. I mean, Apple or Marriott or anyone not selling a product. They're selling a certain trust. When you own an Apple phone, you know that Apple phone is not very difficult to hack. You know an Apple phone, when switched on, will switch on 100% of the times. You know an Apple ecosystem is made in such a way. I know Android is getting there, but yeah, still Apple is number one there, right? Similarly, when you go to a Marriott, they sell you a good night's sleep, which means the bed is in perfection, there is no ambient noise and all of that. So one has to be very clear about what the brand stands for, what is the trust that we offer. At PW, we are not promising anything to the customer but a good education and at an affordable price, and possibly in a language of your choice, right? These are the three things that we offer. Many of our competitors or many other players offer that, oh, we will give you an IIT coaching, we will give you NEET coaching. We say we will enable you to study and educate yourself, and with that, you can then go on to either write IIT, JEE or NEET or whatever, right? So our approach is very, very data driven. We have about 20,000 students who have cracked IIT, JEE, NEET till the year 2023, right? Which is a big number. We have about 50+ offline centers. This year we are looking to enroll about 2 lakh+ students in those offline centers. And one of the key lessons for startups is very essential to know what your core product is, like really core of your business, and then take that product and be obsessed about it with every customer. Not just the first 10 customers, not just the first 20 customers or 100 customers. Every customer you have to be obsessed about and be ready to be doing the boring over and over again. How do you build trust, right? That is the ultimate currency. Nothing else matters in this world, right? If you don't trust a brand, I don't think any of us is going and buying again from that brand. Okay, right now maybe the pricing may be in a certain advantage that you may buy it, but repeat purchases won't happen, because at some point in time, pricing will go back to normalcy. You have to learn to build trust in your brand. You have to learn for customers to come and say that, hey, if something goes wrong, I know that that brand has my back. How did we build trust? I'm just giving you examples, and we can talk more about this if there are any questions. One is any customer who walks in and has a look into a course and wants a refund. I think we have a robust refund policy and we give refunds. Does that mean that this refund policy is not misused? Absolutely, it's misused. But we are willing to be misunderstood one time and over again, but not shortchanging our customer. Um, our content, if I have to give you a percentage, 80 to 85% of our content is free. People say it's a content game. We don't believe it's a content game. We believe that it's a delivery game. It's doing the boring and making sure that the customer is satisfied. If the customer is satisfied, the student himself or herself will learn and be able to crack it. So 85% of our content is free. It's available for everyone. You can go online, you can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and watch live lectures, pre-recorded lectures, one-shot lectures, everything. We teach on YouTube free, so that at the end of the day, that's how you democratize education, right? And that's how you build that brand. So we don't hire, let me rephrase this. We end up hiring educators rather than influencers. So we have around 10,000, about 2,000 to 3,000 educators on our platform. We also have launched an educator program where we train the trainer and make them a trainer in our programs. So those are the programs that we build. We don't build influencers who are just acquisition channels for us. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating. 70 to 75% of our customers are repeat customers. Typically, there is a concept called a lifetime value. So when the customer repeats over 3 or 4 times is when we say the lifetime value of the customer is achieved. We have about 30 to 40% of our customers who buy over 3 or 4 times differing courses from us. So I will like to concise what I said, and then I will open up for questions and some debate if you would. Branding is not a brand building, or building a company is not something that you do for a year, for 6 months, for 2 months, or if you're going public or something like that. No. Branding is a long-term game. You don't build a brand overnight. You don't get up today and say, okay, I'm going to start. It's about being there, being out there, being sustainable, telling the customer what you stand for, and standing for it over and over again. It also means sometimes between doing the business thing, which is looking at your profit and loss statement, and or doing the right thing for the customer, you would say, hey, I do the right thing for the customer, not the profit and loss statement. You build a brand by solving a problem, picking up a problem, and then going to the last grassroots of it and solve the problem. That's how you build a brand. Connect with people, be authentic, be there with your customers. Don't be away from your customers. The further you move away from your customers, some of you will do startups, some of you will be founders. As you grow up in your careers and become founders, don't move away from your customers. Till date, today in PW, I know, including me, all leaders speak to at least 10 to 15 or 20 customers on a weekly basis, so that we get a real hand of what's happening and what are the issues that are plaguing them. Lastly, build that relationship with your customer so that the customer has the ability to come to you rather than going on a social media channel and escalating about you. If you give the customer the opportunity to come to you and raise their issues, and you don't brush aside any issue, not one issue is unimportant. Every issue is important. And I don't talk about this just from PW's perspective. Before PW, I have about 8-9 years at Amazon. At Amazon, one of the key tenets was be customer obsessed. That was the first tenet. Be customer obsessed. Not one customer is wrong. Every customer issue needs to be solved, and we used to obsess about it, and we're trying to do the same thing in Physics Wallah. So don't chase top lines. Don't chase buying customers. Chase doing the right thing for customers, and the customers will come into your kitty on their own. That's all I had on branding for startups. If there are any questions, any debate, conversations, happy to take it up. Wow, I must have left a mark. Radio silence is never good. I mean, it's sometimes good, but not always. Cool, no questions then. So, since there are no questions, I'll add a few anecdotes outside of physics Wallah. Any company that you form, any brand that you build, any problem that you solve, always work customer backwards. Put the customer at the forefront of everything and walk all your processes backwards. What that does is then you have defined the customer experience. You have defined that this is the customer, and I'm not going to let this experience get hampered. My internal processes can vary, right? Most of the customers, especially Gen Zs sitting here, don't care to cahoots about what internal company processes a company has. That's the company's headache. They worry about you defined a certain, or you promised a certain takeaway. I did not get the takeaway, and that's erosion of brand. So always put customer backwards. When you do customer, there are multiple personas of customer. Keep that in mind. You build what is your 80% persona, maybe 5, 7 personas, and for each of those personas, please ensure that your customer experience is defined. And when the customer experience is defined, when the customer is coming to your platform, whether it's an app, whether it's a website, make sure that the customer experience is clearly articulated so the customer knows what to expect, and then build your processes, your products backwards from there. Otherwise, it's going to become a hodgepodge, because then the customer would say, I thought this, and you will turn around and say, but we said this, and this conversation is endless, and then at the end of the day, the customer is always right. So make sure that you have a customer backward approach always. Ensure that your customer stands first. Now, the customer can end up being multiple customers. One, a customer can be your actual customer, who is like in the edtech space, the customer's twofolds, right? One is the end customer, the student. The second one is also our educators. We also want to ensure that our educators meet a certain experience with the brand, and we try and establish that experience with the educator, so that the educator feels empowered, the educator feels excited to come on a platform and teach. If I have to take this and extrapolate to, say, e-commerce, the customer who's buying from you is your customer. At the same time, the seller who's on your platform is also a customer. At the end of the day, if the seller is not seeing benefits from being on your platform, he or she will not be on your platform, and that platform will automatically collapse. So ensure that you have your customers rightly mapped out, who the customer is. And lastly, and I typically close with this, acquiring customer is the easier part of the problem. I know there are many people here who may disagree, but trust me, acquiring customers is the easier part of the problem. The tougher part of the problem is managing those customers, retaining those customers. If you have retained your customers, and if you manage your customers, your acquisition problem will get solved. It may not get solved immediately, but it will get solved over a period of time, and that will be a permanent solve. For acquiring newer customers, you will not have to spend money. It will be a natural organic acquisition. Sales teams typically hold customers for a period of, depending on the kind of sales one does, period of 1 to 5 days. The delivery team holds the customer, the operations team holds the customer for a period of 6 months, which is the tougher part of the struggle. So always make sure that your processes, your delivery ecosystem is top notch, and that there is no breakages there. So good luck for all of you. Thank you for having me, and it was great being here, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish Sharma. And to present a token of our appreciation to him, I'd like to bring on stage Dr. Geena Madhavan, Associate Professor from Department of Psychology and Allied Sciences, Jain University. Welcome on stage, ma'am. And thank you for that step-by-step breakdown of the process that went into Physics Wallah. I request the team to bring the memento for Mr. Ashish Sharma, who is the Senior Vice President at Physics Wallah, and I request you to take the center stage, sir.